In the bustling town of Ilesa, nestled in the western region of Nigeria, Olakanmi was known as a brilliant mechanic. His skills in fixing cars were unmatched, yet his earnings were meager. The constant struggle to make ends meet weighed heavily on him. He dreamed of more, a life of luxury, respect, and ease. One fateful evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, Olakanmi found himself at a local bar. The clinking of glasses and the hum of laughter filled the air. Among the patrons was Olakanmi, an old friend turned wealthy businessman. Olakanmi's transformation from a struggling trader to a man of means was the talk of the town. Olakanmi. Olakanmi's voice boomed as he approached. "It's been ages, my friend." They exchanged pleasantries, and soon, Olakanmi began to boast about his wealth. Olakanmi's curiosity got the better of him. "Olakanmi, tell me the truth." Olakanmi leaned in. "How did you do it?" Olakanmi hesitated, then lowered his voice. "There are things in this world, Olakanmi. Opportunities, but not for the faint-hearted. If you're ready, meet me tomorrow night at my house." The next evening, Olakanmi arrived at Olakanmi's lavish home. He was led into a dimly lit room where several men sat in a circle, their faces serious. Olakanmi explained their purpose. "This is the Brotherhood of the Prosperous Flame. We have rituals that unlock wealth, but they come with sacrifices." Olakanmi's pulse quickened. The thought of wealth was intoxicating, but the word sacrifice sent a chill down his spine. "What kind of sacrifices?" he asked. "Nothing you can't handle," Olakanmi assured him. "Our most sacred ritual involves the rice of fate. We take a chicken, starve it for 3 days, and then feed it a handful of rice. The number of grains it eats determines the years of wealth you'll enjoy." Olakanmi laughed nervously. It sounded absurd, yet the men's solemn expressions suggested otherwise. "If I agree." Olakanmi's voice wavered. "Then prepare to leave your old life behind," Olakanmi said. After days of internal conflict, Olakanmi decided to join the Brotherhood. The promise of wealth was too tempting. During the initiation ceremony, he was blindfolded and taken to a secluded forest. The air was thick with the scent of burning herbs, and chants echoed around him. When the blindfold was removed, Olakanmi saw the starved chicken in a wooden cage. A silver bowl filled with rice grains was placed before it. The priest muttered incantations and then released the chicken. It pecked hungrily, counting down Olakanmi's years of prosperity. 1, 2, 3, the priest counted aloud. The chicken stopped at 7 grains. 7 years, the priest announced. 7 years of wealth, but after that, your time will come. True to their word, Olakanmi's life changed overnight. Customers flooded his workshop, bringing luxury cars and paying generously. He built a mansion, bought flashy cars, and became the toast of Ilesa. He began mingling with influential people and indulging in excesses that once felt like distant dreams. However, with each passing year, he couldn't shake the gnawing fear that his time was running out. By the 6th year, Olakanmi's life had taken on a surreal quality. Strange occurrences began to disrupt his carefully constructed facade. Tools in his workshop moved on their own, lights flickered inexplicably, and a cold wind seemed to follow him wherever he went. People whispered that his success was unnatural, but none dared confront him. One night, as Olakanmi lay in bed, he heard a faint clucking sound. He bolted upright, his heart pounding. The sound grew louder, and then he saw it, the chicken from the ritual, gaunt and spectral, standing at the foot of his bed. Its eyes glowed red, and its feathers were tattered and thin. "Your time is near," it croaked. Terrified, Olakanmi sought out Olakanmi, who had mysteriously vanished from town. Desperate, he approached the priest who had conducted the ritual. "Is there a way to undo this?" Olakanmi begged. The priest's eyes were cold. "The pact cannot be broken. But there is one way to extend your life." "How?" "Another must take your place. Bring someone willing to undergo the ritual, and your remaining years will be added to theirs." The thought sickened Olakanmi, but his fear of death outweighed his guilt. He began to search for a desperate soul. He found Ikena, a young apprentice mechanic struggling to provide for his family. Olakanmi lured him with promises of wealth and introduced him to the Brotherhood. During Ikena's initiation, Olakanmi felt a pang of guilt as the chicken pecked at the grains. Ikena's count stopped at 5. As the ceremony ended, Olakanmi felt a sudden release, as if a weight had been lifted from him. He had bought himself 5 more years. But the relief was short-lived. Ikena's transformation was rapid, and he too became wealthy. However, the shadows that had haunted Olakanmi now seemed to follow Ikena. Worse, Olakanmi began to experience vivid nightmares. In them, the chicken appeared, its feathers soaked in blood, accusing him. One night, Olakanmi's mansion was consumed by flames of unknown origin. He barely escaped, losing everything he had gained. Homeless and destitute, he wandered the streets of Ilesa, haunted by visions of the chicken and the faces of those he had deceived. The whispers about him grew louder, and the townspeople began to avoid him, believing he was cursed. Desperate and broken, Olakanmi returned to the priest, hoping for redemption. The priest's response was harsh. "You cannot undo what has been done. The balance must be maintained. You have cheated fate, and now it seeks retribution." In his final days, Olakanmi returned to his workshop, now in ruins. He picked up a wrench, the tool of his honest trade, and wept. Memories of his humble beginnings flooded his mind, and he realized how far he had strayed. The Brotherhood had given him wealth but taken his soul. When he died, the townspeople found a peculiar sight. A skeletal chicken stood atop his lifeless body, pecking at invisible grains. The story of Olakanmi became a cautionary tale, a grim reminder of the price of greed and the perils of shortcuts to success. But the story didn't end there. Whispers began to spread that the Brotherhood was still active, luring more desperate souls into their web. Olakanmi's tragic tale served as a chilling warning, but the allure of wealth was a powerful temptation. Each new member learned too late that the price of fortune was far greater than they could bear. Decades later, the legend of Olakanmi grew, embellished with each retelling. Children in Ilesa were warned to avoid the Forest of Flames, where it was said that the spirits of the sacrificed chickens roamed, seeking revenge. The elders spoke of eerie lights seen in the forest at night and strange cries that echoed through the town during storms. The Brotherhood's rituals became an open secret, whispered about but never confronted. One young man, Adagir, heard the tale and became determined to uncover the truth. Adagir was ambitious and skeptical of the supernatural, believing the stories were mere folklore. He began to investigate Olakanmi's life, interviewing old acquaintances and piecing together the events that led to his downfall. The deeper Adagir delved, the more he felt the pull of the Brotherhood's promise. Despite the warnings, Adagir sought out the Brotherhood, convinced he could outsmart their curse. He joined their ranks and underwent the ritual, watching as the starved chicken pecked at the rice grains. When the count ended, Adagir's years of wealth were sealed. Adagir basked in his newfound wealth, defying the warnings of those who had come before him. He used his success to gain power and influence, dismissing the legends as mere superstition. For a time, it seemed he was right. There were no shadows, no spectral chickens, no signs of impending doom. But in the 3rd year, strange occurrences began to plague him. A persistent clucking sound haunted his nights, faint at first but growing louder as the days passed. His opulent mansion felt colder, the laughter of his guests hollow. Adagir's skepticism began to waver as he noticed patterns he could no longer explain. One stormy night, Adagir was awakened by a chilling presence. At the foot of his bed stood a ghostly chicken, its feathers shimmering with an eerie light. Its eyes bore into his soul, and in a raspy voice, it whispered, "You cannot outsmart fate." Desperate to escape his looming demise, Adagir sought out the priest, who had grown frailer but no less cryptic. The priest gave him the same grim choice: find another to take his place or face the inevitable. Adagir, like those before him, was consumed by fear. He identified a struggling farmer on the outskirts of town and lured him into the Brotherhood with promises of prosperity. The ritual was performed, and Adagir believed he had secured his safety. But as the farmer's wealth grew, Adagir's fears turned into paranoia. His nightmares worsened, and the ghostly chicken became a constant companion, mocking his every move. It became clear that while he had bought more time, he could never escape the curse. One fateful evening, as Adagir stood on the balcony of his grand mansion, overlooking the town he had come to dominate, a bolt of lightning struck the forest in the distance. Flames erupted, engulfing the forest of flames in an inferno. In the flickering light, Adagir thought he saw hundreds of spectral chickens rising from the forest, their cries piercing the night. Terrified, he fled into the darkness, disappearing from Ilesa forever. His mansion stood abandoned, becoming a monument to greed and the unrelenting power of the Brotherhood's curse. The story of Olakanmi and Adagir remained etched in the memory of Ilesa. Elders warned the young, but greed, like history, often repeated itself. New whispers emerged, new faces joined the Brotherhood, and the cycle continued, each soul certain they could outsmart the unseen forces that governed the rise of fate. In the end, no one truly escaped. The Brotherhood thrived in the shadows, waiting for the next desperate soul to knock on its door.